students who will be attending the sessions, the webinar for both the days will be getting a certificate from the institute's side, and they can contact the official workshop coordinators, maybe a faculty coordinator or the student coordinator, workshop coordinators. You can contact them after the webinar, and you can collect your certificates from them. So let's get more and more audience. Just share it across who's regarding yesterday's session, or if you have any questions regarding yesterday's session, just feel free to mention in comment section. We can discuss regarding that as well. Just make sure you guys keep interacting, right? Just let us know how was the yesterday's session, if we can improve anything from yesterday's session, if we can take some feedbacks from yesterday's session and improve it in today's session. Just let us know. Okay, so I'll bring in our today's speaker to the feed as well, and
I'm good. Good morning, everybody.
yep. So I guess that we already have a huge amount of numbers, as you might be seeing in the comment section.
Yep.
So I guess we should start. If you have anything to speak before starting, you can do that, or else we can start with our session, because we already have a lot more students, and once we start, I guess we'll see a lot more this number peak.
Questions from yesterday's session, or how many guys have installed R or R Studio? They can get really hands-on today. I mean, if they have already installed it. Anything, guys? So let's quickly recap what we have done yesterday. What we have discussed yesterday. Okay, so we started with what is analytics, and what is data analysis, and what is data mining, different type of statistics like descriptive statistics, and discussed about differences between machine learning, artificial intelligence, and basic operations in R like addition, subtraction. Then we have discussed about why R, right? So because it has many richer and extensive tools, there were like huge library for data analytics, simple to learn yet sophisticated to solve complex tasks, right? And it is free, open source, and easily integrated with other DBMS, big data, Hadoop, Spark, and all, right? Then we have discussed different data structures. What are the data structures in R, like vectors, data? We have discussed, and we did practice on the same. So whoever missed it yesterday, they can see the they can follow the link on the YouTube, and they can quickly go through, and they can see it again. And today we are going to talk about two main libraries, which is ggplot and dplyr. Okay, the most important library in R and the most useful. I mean, without it you cannot do anything in R. Okay, so let's start. I'll start with ggplot. Okay, so let's try to understand first, basic plotting, like how to do basic plotting in R. Okay, so let me share my screen. 1 second. Share screen. Application. Where the hell is R? Just 1 second, guys. Okay. All right. So basic plotting in R. So right now I'm not talking about ggplot, but first we'll talk about basic plotting, like the inbuilt functions in R base R. Okay, in base R. So as you can see, we are going to do that on Iris database, Iris data frame, right? That we have discussed yesterday itself. So let me clear the environment variables first, so that I don't see anything else. Let's see the structure again, just to quickly recap. So basically it has simple length, width, species with a factor, right? Now I want to see how the length and width they vary across, right? How they are, do they have any trend? Like if it is that if the particular sepal has this much length, then it should have particular width, right? So I want to see the relationship between the length and width of the sepal. So let's plot this one, and there you go. It says plot, right? So it's a basic scatter plot. When you say scatter plot, it means that it is a point plot, right? So it will actually plot every single point in the data set, right? So you can see this. So on the x-axis you can see sepal dot length. So my first argument to the plot variable is sepal dot length. So it got plotted on the x-axis, and then the y-axis I have sepal dot width. Okay, and you can see it's a scatter plot, so points are scattered all around the x-axis and y-axis, and as I can see, there is no relationship between them. So there is no trend they are following, right? So length is independent of width, and width is independent of length. I can see easily from the graph. All right. So when so I'll talk about categorical and continuous variable, which graph to use when. So I'll talk about in little bit, but let's do some more. So we will add a layer now. We will add a layer using points. So we'll color them, right? Basically to color. So I have added petal dot length and petal dot width as well. So color is red. So they are also integrated into this graph itself. Okay. Now, see, species is a categorical variable, right? So we don't need to spot points on it. But among this points itself, we want to know which species behaves how. So let's see. So what I have done is pass the third argument color to iris dollar species. So species is color. So you can see here. So green, red, and black. There are three species, right? And now there are three colors. So now which species display which color is displayed by which color? We don't know yet, because there is no legend here, right? Now there are some limitations to this basic plotting, right? Like the legend, I want to make it more attractive, right? Because I want to add a title, I want to add x-axis, y-axis, then I want to add legend, I want to add more points and all that. So so that it looks more beautiful. So for that, we need more advanced functions. We need more variables. We need more properties of variables, so that we can have it a beautiful. So for that purpose, we get introduced to the ggplot library. Okay, now let's see. So first of all, okay, now different types of charts. Let's discuss first different types of charts. So we have seen the scatter plot, right? Now, if you want to draw the histogram, if you guys know the histogram, what is histogram? So histogram is basically, it will tell you the range, in which particular range what is the data, right? So for example, you define the range for a salary, right? Like you have different buckets for salary for 10,000, and 10 to 20,000, 20 to 30,000, 30 to 50,000, and things like this. And how many people fall into the particular category. So for that kind of purpose, you use histograms. So let's see. I'll plot a histogram for sepal.width. Okay, so hist is the function. So what it will do is basically it will automatically pick up the bins. In R you say it bins. So it will automatically pick up the bin as per the data and draw the histogram. So let's see. So you can see here histogram of iris sepal.width. So the column name is sepal.width, and you can see the highest the sepal width is the most of the like flowers, they have the sepal width between this 2.75 to 3 centimeters, right? So this is what it tells me. And then there is this. So basically you can see it's a very kind of symmetric distribution of sepal.width. Okay. Similarly, you can draw for sepal.length. So let's see sepal.length. Length, you can see most of them have the 6 to 7, 6 to 6.5, I will say, right? Okay, then you can type question and hist so that you can read more about the histogram function. Okay, now let's draw for petal.width. So petal.width. So there are no flowers. There is no species flower whose petal width range between this 0.7 to 0.6 to 0.75. Yes, so there is no there. But the highest, the most of the flowers have the small petal width. You can see from 0 to 0.25. This is the highest, right? So you can see that most of the flowers have less width, smaller width. They are like small flowers. Okay. So this is very useful to understand the data. Seeing the data, you cannot see anything. Easily. But seeing this, it's pretty much useful. Now there is another basic plot, which is box plot. Now the main significance of box plot is that it gives you information about the range, about the distribution of data, like what is the max, what is the median, what is the minimum, then what are the outliers. So now outliers, what is outlier? Anybody has any idea what is outlier? If you have heard the term outlier. Any guess? Any thoughts? See, outlier is basically, for example, I have 100 employees. Okay, you have a company in which there are 100 employees. Now, the salary is very well distributed. Okay, like most of them have 40,000 salary. Junior employees have 40,000 salary. Then ranging from 30,000 to 40,000 salary. Then mid-level employee, they have like ranging from 50,000 to 75,000 salary. And then high level employee who have ranging from like 80,000 to 1 lakh, right? So that's a normal distribution. You have like junior, mid-level, and higher category of employee, and their salary varies as per their experience and their functionality and all. And but you have an exception employee, right? You have like few exceptional employees. They perform exceptionally well. They give you more business. They generate the revenue for you. So you want to make them happy, and you give special perks to them. You give very special salary to them. So suppose five of them are very special, and you give 2 lakh to everyone. Only 5 people, and you give 2 lakhs to 5 people. So they are outliers. So they are outliers to the system. Why? Because they will destroy the distribution, overall distribution. So for example, if you calculate the average salary, right, for all the employees, so that will give you a higher average, right, because of those 5 guys. So they will distort your graph, they will distort your model, they will distort your data. So you need to be very careful to fix those. Okay, you need to be very careful. So first thing you check in the numerical data in the continuous variable is that this thing only. I'll check for outliers. Okay, so box plot will clearly tells you. There is another way of doing it, but we'll look at first the box plot. So box plot, let's draw the box plot. Okay, so see here. So now you can see there is no outlier. So basically what happens, see, this is the top line, this is the third quantile. So 75% of data, okay, and this is the 25% first quantile, and this black dark line is the median. So median, right, it's not in the middle, it's on the higher above. So what is median? You guys know, right, what is the difference between mean and median? So mean is basically average of all this, and median is like, for example, if you have 100 rows, then or if, for example, if you have 101 rows, then the 51st row is the median. Okay, and I mean you have to sort the data, and then 51st row is your median. So median is different from mean. So this black dot line shows this black dark line shows the median. This is the max. This top whisker is the max, and this lowest is the bottom is the minimum. Okay, now when you talk about outlier goes above this range. So if anything after this max, then it's a outlier, or anything below this min, it's a outlier. So outlier can happen on any side. So suppose you have an employee whose salary is like 5,000. Maybe he's like a gatekeeper or something, and you have so you give 5,000 to gatekeeper, and he that's outlier. So that will also destroy your data. So you have to be careful for both of them, upper and lower. Okay, so box plot will clearly tells you that. Now since this data don't have an outlier, it doesn't show any, but in the coming up data set we will discuss more about other data sets. Then you will see how it is. Okay, all right, so this is very basic plotting which we do in R using inbuilt function. So for this you don't need any package or anything like that, but to do the higher graphics, okay, to do the exploratory data analysis, you need an advanced library like ggplot. So to do that, okay, now let's start with ggplot. Before that, you guys have any question? A value much different than remaining values, right, Yuvraj? Yes, rest of the point. So basically, I think you guys are talking about the scatter plot that we plotted, and you can see the points really different from each other. So there is no trend they are following. There is no particular pattern they were following. So that's why they were like scattered around, right? Okay. Now let's start with ggplot. Okay. So before we start, let's look at some of the grammar, like some of the theory perspective, like what exactly is it and how it will be used. So let's see if there is. Okay. What is that? No, sir. Kuldeep, Arun, or Sojifa? Like you guys haven't got it or what? Arun, what is no? Okay. All right. Thanks, Mrinal. Okay. So, where's my R? Now, before using any library or package, you need to what do what? You need to install that package. Okay. So how to install? Install dot packages ggplot. Okay, so this is the install dot package and the name of the package. Okay, and when you run this, it will install the package from CRAN, from our library repository to your system. Okay, so I don't need to run this because it's already installed in my system. And whenever you open new session in R, you have to load it. Okay, using library. So installation you have to do once, but this loading of library you have to do whenever you open your session. So it's like when you in C, when you do that include I think void, I forgot the name. There is header files you have to load, right, every time. So similarly you have to do this for ggplot2 or any other library you use. So library ggplot2. Now I can use ggplot2 library using any. Now if you want to see which packages are there already installed and already this, the search function will do for you. So search function, it will tell you that you have ggplot2, and you have, see, these are the base packages, utils, datasets, autolets. These are the base packages or default packages which are installed. But ggplot2 I have done library, so that's why it is there. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Now let me move to the. Let me draw a simple graph first. Okay, then I will show you what is there. So, ggplot. I'll take the simple data set iris. AES x is equal to simple dot length comma y is equal to simple dot width plus geom underscore point. Okay. Alright, it's case sensitive. Alright. Far better, right? So what I have done, I have taken this data set iris, then on x-axis I have put simple dot length, on y-axis I have put simple dot width, and which graph I want to plot, it's a point. It's basically scatter plot. It's called geom underscore point. Now when I zoom it, I can see there is no relationship. The points are scattered across, right? But it is very much informative and very much clear than the basic plot, right? And it looks more beautiful also, right? So serves the purpose and looks more beautiful, right? Okay. Now let's look at this function, this entire thing. So let me open this PowerPoint I have prepared for you guys, so that you will have better understanding. So I need to switch this. Stop sharing and then share a screen and then this thing. Oops, sorry. All right. So to understand ggplot, you need to understand the grammar of graphics. So for example, if you when you read English, when you speak English language, you follow the grammar rules, right? You use past tense, present tense, and future tense accordingly, and punctuation and different things, different elements of grammar, English grammar. You have to follow those rules, or maybe if you are reading Hindi, same. Any programming language, you need to follow the rules, protocols, syntax. So similarly, ggplot has its own grammar, okay, which you need to follow and specify the different elements, and then it will work accordingly. Okay, so now the three essential grammatical elements of the ggplot library is first is data. Okay, so data itself, right? Without data you cannot do anything. So you need first of all a data. Then aesthetics. Aesthetics means scales onto which we map our data, basically x-axis, y-axis, right? Then geometries. So geometries means visual element of our data. So which graph you want, right? If you want histogram, if you want box plot, you want bar chart, you want scatter, you line, density. There are so many charts. Okay, so these are the three you can say mandatory elements of the ggplot library. Okay, now very important: data, aesthetics, and geometries. So these are the basic three grammatical elements which you need for your plot. Okay, now let's look at the code. So it says ggplot, right? Bracket open. The first element is iris. So this is iris data set, right? So iris. Then comma AES. AES stands for aesthetics. Okay. Bracket x-axis, y-axis. Okay, close. So data is done, aesthetics is done, plus geom underscore point. So geom underscore point, which it will tell you that you are plotting a scatter plot. Okay, clear? All right. Now optional layers. So now to make your graph more informative and more you'd say beautiful and the more attractive, you can add few optional layers, right? Like themes. You can have a theme. Okay, you can have different statistics like log, like you can draw a linear smoothing line, and then different statistics you can do. Coordinates, you can have different polar coordinates or different things, and we'll discuss that during our we'll show you during when we do the hands-on. Okay, then facets means for like this is very useful for categorical variables. So suppose you have 5 categories and you want to see the performance of your data among all those 5 categories. So you can have a 5 different windows. Okay, so that's called called is a facet. Okay, very important and very useful, but it's optional. It's not mandatory, but it's optional, but you have to use it. Okay, jargon for each element. So these are the jargons. Like for data you have variable of interest, right? Aesthetics, x-axis, y-axis. Then you can define the color, shape, fill, size, labels. We'll discuss each of them. Okay, then geometries, line chart, bar chart, point, histogram, box plot. These are the most important plots which we will discuss. Themes, non-data inc, statistics like binning. Like in histogram you have to define what is the bin size, right? Then smoothing, as I said, in the linear regression, when you talk about smoothing, descriptive analytics, inferential and analytics, you can add all those coordinates: polar, Cartesian, fixed, limits, facets, columns, rows, facet up, column, you want to see them in column or rows, that depends on you. So this is a jargon, right? Types of chart, as I said, scatter plot, line plot, line chart, bar chart, histogram. Now next is so this is different terminologies and different things are associated with ggplot library. Okay, any questions so far? Am I going too fast or too slow? I mean, it's okay for you guys to understand. All right. So now let's plot few things. Let's plot few charts. Okay. Let me share my RStudio now. So I'll switch the application. Stop. Share screen. RStudio. All right. So now you can see. Now let me open this ggplot1. All right. So we have discussed. Okay. So let's look at another data set which is called empty cars. Okay, empty cars we have discussed yesterday. So let's do some plotting and try to understand the data. So let's explore the data actually, you can say. So this data set, let's quickly recap what is this data set about. The data was extracted from 1974 Motor Trend US magazine and comprises fuel consumption and 10 aspects of automobile design and performance for 32 automobiles. Okay, so it has like 32 observations and 11 variables. MPG, which is miles per gallon, number of cylinders, displacement, gross horsepower, rear axle ratio, weight, Q-sec is like 1/4 mile time, VS, transmission, automatic or manual, number of forward gears, number of carburetors. So these are the 11 variables. Now let's look at the structure of this data set. So you can see all of them are numeric. MPG, cylinder, displacement, HP, DRAT. But something is wrong here, right? Because you can see in the cylinder, if you look at this few data, it says 6, 8, 4, 6. So I'm just wondering here if there is a chance that this is a categorical variable. Let's see, unique of empty cars $cylinder 648. Only 3 values are there. Okay, so this is a categorical variable. Let's convert this to categorical. So I don't want to disturb empty cars, okay, because that's the inbuilt data set. So I don't want to disturb it. So what I'll do is I'll create similar data set named by cars, and then we will use that for our testing purposes. So I'll assign to this. Cars is created, similar data set to empty cars. Now I don't have to touch empty cars. Isn't it easy? Right. So now cars $cylinder. Need to change this to factor, right? Factor cars $cylinder. Oops, sorry. All right, now let's check the structure of cars. Factor with 3 levels, right? Now we need to understand this, that which graph to use when. Okay. For example, line chart, scatter chart, right? Bar chart, histogram, and density chart, box plot. Which one to use when? So for categorical variables, Okay, so let's suppose, let's understand this by doing it, okay? Not by explaining it. I like this way actually, that you know learn by doing. Aesthetics, x is equal to, I want on x-axis I want cylinder, and on y-axis I want miles per gallon. So basically what I'm trying to plot here is miles per gallon as a function of cylinder. So how miles per gallon varies, with the number of cylinders. So if they have like higher number of cylinders, will it decrease or will it increase? I want to see that pattern. Okay, so plus let's start with geom underscore point. Okay, and let's plot this. So you can see only three and its points, not very much useful. I don't like this. I mean, I don't understand this, what it is saying. Basically it says that, with the four number of cylinders are less, miles per gallon is going high, and if the number of cylinders are low, then it's sorry, if the number of cylinders are more, then, so basically, for a faster car, when you have a faster car, you have more number of cylinders, and if you have more number of cylinders, the miles per gallon go less. Okay, so that's the conclusion. But still, I mean, let's try different graph on this. Let's try line chart. Geom underscore. All I have to do is this. All I have to change is this. So you can see the similar point of this, similar thing. Now let's try bar. This is, you have to specify, this is like a syntax thing. Okay, right? So you can see a lot of cars falls into this category. Okay, and their miles per gallon is like highest is this, and this. These are the number of cars, right? So you can see very clearly that most of the cars are four-cylinder cars with a very high miles per gallon. So basically, to draw the categorical variable, you need to use bar chart. Okay. Now this is the way you do the things. You do try different things, and then whatever looks best, you apply them. Okay, and that's how it should be. Okay, so that's the rule number one. When you draw the when you compare two continuous variables, two numerical variables, you have to use either scatter plot or you have to use line chart. Okay, and the scatter plot is is way better. For example, you want to compare miles per gallon and weight. Okay? Weight is another continuous variable, 2.62, 2.88, 2.32. So for that, you should use that thing, point only. So let's try this. Y is equal to weight. Geom underscore bar this. What is this? If I use a bar chart on continuous variable, it doesn't show me anything. I don't understand like what is going on, right? So which graph to use when? It's very important to understand. Okay. Now let's see geom point. Nice, right? So I already see a trend. So as the weight increases, the miles per gallon decreases. I can see the inverse trend, right? You can see here, like this. It's a reverse trend. So as now to see it more clearly, let's switch this. Okay, let's switch this, and I put weight here, and on y-axis you put the mpg, miles per gallon. Now you can see more clearly. You will have, so now on which axis put which variable, this is also very important factor to consider. Now you can easily see as the weight is increasing, miles per gallon is decreasing. When the weight is less here, the miles per gallon is way high. Okay, so heavy vehicles have less miles per gallon. Okay, so they are less economical. Okay, this is kind of inference you draw from no, and as I said, when you draw the let's try the line chart. Okay, so it clearly says that tells the trend. You can see it's a negative trend, right? It's an inverse trend. Now that's the thing, and this is the key. So either you can use a scatter plot, or line chart. Both of them give you the information, but still I will prefer scatter plot on this kind of on this when you draw the continuous variable charts. Then you should use, no matter what, you should use this particular scatter plot. And this line chart is very useful for time series. So to do the weather forecasting, to draw the economics data, to draw the cricket series, cricket like scores and all those. For that kind of data, you should use line chart. And for to compare two numerical variables, you should use scatter plot. To draw the categorical variable, you should use bar chart, right? Now, when you talk about when to use box plot basically it will tell you the range of the data, the distribution of the data across the data set. So I'll show you box plot little later. Okay. Now, it has different purpose other than this. So we'll discuss that later. Now let's do some plotting as per our script. This is the first plot. So this is we already have done, and this one. Oh, okay. This is empty cars. Right. So whenever you have categorical variable versus continuous variable, so cylinder is a categorical variable, miles per gallon is a continuous variable. Always put numerical variable or continuous variable on the y-axis and categorical variable on the x-axis, because it has limited value, and that's how they group the data. Okay. Now let me look if you have guys. All right. Any questions so far? We're going good? Okay. Now let's try another one. So, I want to see which of them are like automatically transmitted, or transmission have automatic or manual, right? So ggplot, empty cars, okay. Aesthetic variable x is equal to factor of am. So you can do it directly here without changing the structure of data of original data. You can apply the factor function in the x itself. X is that this aesthetic itself. So x is equal to factor of am. So am basically tells you the transmission is automatic or manual, and y is equal to miles per gallon. So I want to see the how the miles per gallon varies across different transmissions, and then definitely that's because a categorical variable is involved versus continuous variable. We need to plot the bar graph. Okay, so let's do this. So you can see there is no effect. 0, 1, right? It says 0, 1. So which one is 0 and which one is 1? You can find out from here. Empty cars. Transmission. 0 is automatic and 1 is manual. Okay. So you can see there is no difference. I mean, it's like almost negligible difference. So basically, miles per gallon doesn't depend on the type of transmission you have, and that's very true. I have drove in the US, and I have drove both of them in the US, and I know there is no difference between the mileage for both of them. I mean, it's negligible, right? Okay. So this is kind of inference you draw when you plot the different graphs. Okay, when you and see, the important things to understand here is the grammar of graphics, which are the necessary elements and which are the optional layers and all. I mean, definitely we don't have time to cover every and each thing, so I have discovered only important things, important points. But I mean, if you you can use various resources and to get in details. It's very interesting and it's very useful. And I mean, in the real world, in the organizations are using it very much in a big way. So important things to understand is which chart to use, when, right? Like when to use line, when to use bar, when to use box, and these things. Okay. Let me show you one more thing here. So I can put here color is equal to aesthetic, right? So inside of aesthetic, I am putting color is equal to this fellow cylinder. Cylinder is not a factor in empty cars, so I'll use cars over here and remove this. Okay. You can see. Okay, and there is a legend. Automatically, R draw the legend 4, 6, 8. So this one is like 4-cylinder car, 4-cylinder car, 4. So you can see the high miles per gallon for the 4-cylinder car itself here, right? Both of the cases, whether it's an automatic transmission or whether it's a manual transmission, the highest miles per gallon achieved by smaller number of cylinders cars, right? The less number of car, the car with the less number of cylinders, right? In both the cases. So that justify that graph also. So you can add 3 variables. Similarly, if you want to add another variable, you can use shape, size, and all different kind of things. Now let's quickly move and look for a few other things. Bar charts we have already discussed. Let's see what's in there. Okay. Yeah, time series. I want to discuss this one. Very important. So there is a data set called economics. It's by default given by that R. So you can read about the data. Let me check if there are any questions. All right. Any questions so far, guys? Okay. So economics. So this data set was produced from US economic time series data available from this website. Economics is in wide format. Okay. It's a 478 rows with 6 variables. Date is the one of the variable which shows month of the data collection, personal savings rate, personal consumer expenditure, unemployment rate, okay, then UNEMP, median duration of unemployment in weeks, population in thousands, right? So this is the basically data. Now let's look at the data, like how does it look? So view, you can see date, so it's a date, then PCE, which is like percent personal consumer expenditures in billions of dollars, right? Population, then personal savings rate, unemployment in weeks, and unemployment, right? Number of unemployed in thousands, and this is a median duration of unemployment in weeks. Okay. Okay. Now, so if you want to see top 6 rows, that's how it looks. Okay. Let's see the structure. So class is date is date, PC is numeric, population is numeric, this is numeric, numeric, numeric. So nothing to change over there. There are no factor variables here, as we can see. Now, as I said, this will be shown best by the line chart. Okay, economics data. So I want to see, okay, let's remove this first. If I want to see the unemployed and the date, I mean how the unemployment over the period of months increasing or decreasing, or what kind of trend it is showing. So I've said ggplot economics, AES, aesthetics is like date, and on y-axis you have unemployment in thousands, and geom line, right? Wow. So this looks like you see in the stock market, right? So stock market also use time series forecasting model, okay, and it's very much built up in R. So most of the traders, they follow that time series forecasting model, okay. And as you can see, how the unemployment is increasing over the time during 1970 and 1980 and 1990 and 2000 and 2010, and then there's a sharp decline over here, right? But if you see from here, like from 1970 till here, it's gone very high. But that's not true actually. Why? Because in 1970 the population was also less, right? And in 2010 the population is also more. So you cannot judge that, right? So you need to check the fraction. What is the fraction of population is unemployed, right? So that's why there is this will be a fraction. Now you can see. So you can see during this period there is a high rate of unemployment, right? And very less here, it's increasing here. So there is a change, right? Before and after. Why? This will tell you the correct information. So you need to keep these things in mind, that when you want to check for the fraction, when you want to check for the real data, so that's a derived variable. Unemployed divided by pop, that's a derived variable. So you can save that in a variable, added to a data frame. When we will discuss the tplyr library, we'll discuss that. Okay. So this is the time series model. There are many things in ggplot, and I can take like 5 days to 5-6 days will not be enough to cover each and everything. But this is the broad sense of the broad usage of the ggplot library. Why it is useful? To explore the data, right? You need when you want to create a model, or when you want to create a machine learning model, right? First you need to explore the data, and visualization is the best way to explore the data. And ggplot library is my favorite library, I mean, to explore the data. Okay. I'll finish this ggplot library discussion right here. Okay, we have discussed various things, and I've tried to show you various important I've covered almost important things. Okay, so now we will take a 5 minutes break, and we'll switch to dplyr library. Okay, So I'll be right back in 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. anything, you cannot judge anything out of that. So you need to prepare that. Now to prepare that, you need a dplyr library. It's a very good library, very vast. I mean, not in terms of the functions, number of functions it has, but in the terms of the important functions they have. Okay, so so again, you have to first install .packages dplyr, right? You have to first install the library, okay, and then you have to do the library of dplyr to make it use. Okay, now there are four important verbs. There are four most important verbs, actually, I should say. The four most important verbs in the dplyr library. Okay, the first one is select. Okay, select is basically when you like, there are like 100 columns, right? When you receive the raw columns, there are like 100 columns in it, because it's as per discussion with the user, either the user or your own understanding of the domain. Now, what is domain? So basically, suppose you work for a bank, right? So financial industry is the domain, right? Then suppose you work for a healthcare, for a hospital, so the healthcare will be your industry. So you work for a stock market, then financial, then that industry is your industry. So that is particularly domain. Okay, so data understandings comes with the experience in domain also, right? So because I have worked in JP Morgan for almost 10 years, so I have experience in finance industry. So I can relate finance and data analytics together and make a good product, right? So when you do the data cleansing, data messaging, data extraction, you have to use this library as per your domain knowledge. Suppose you want to there are 100 columns provided to you, right? And you only want 20 out of them, right? 20 out of them are useful, you think, as per your domain understanding or as per the understanding of the client. Client will tell you, okay, these are 100 variables, but you don't, I want analytics on this 20 variables only. Okay? So to do that, you use select. Okay, select. Now then filter. So select is like if you write a SQL, select star from employee, so that will give you all the columns, right? But when you say select first name, last name, middle name, and country from employee, so that will only display the selected columns, right? So that's the thing with the select. Now filter is basically, the name itself says, right, filter. So you filter the rows which you don't need. So suppose there is an employee data set and I want to see only the employees who work for the research department, or I want to see the employees whose salary is greater than 1 lakh, or there are like different things. So that's filter. Okay, arrange. So I need to arrange in a descending order or ascending order, right? To do that, there is a arrange function. Now mutate. So mutate is basically to add or remove to add a new column. Basically, the most important function of mutate is to add a new column. So we have seen that in the economics data, right? That unemployed, we were trying to plot unemployed versus that date, right? So instead of that, we thought about it, and we draw the fraction and plot against the date, right? So when you so that particular fraction, you can make it a column. Okay, you can make it a column using mutate and put it in the data set. Okay, very important. All of these four functions. Now when you use these four functions, I mean, let's see. That is gone. Yes. Now summary functions. So if you do a lot of aggregations, right, across the data, so you need these aggregations functions like sum, for research department, what is the total number of salary? What is the total salary for all the employees? So you get the sum. And what is the minimum salary across research department? Or for the entire data set, max, n, like how many employees works in the research department. So that gives you count, right? Mean, median, mean is like average salary, median is like median salary, right? So these are the summary functions which you use along with the select and all this and that. Okay. Now then there is a function called group by and summarize. So basically group by. So when you want to do the calculation across the particular subset, right? For example, you want to do the aggregation across the research department, right? So you want to group by department wise and then apply the sum function over the salary. We will do the practicals. Okay, so just take it if you are not able to understand, but most of you have done this in SQL. If you have done the hands-on on SQL, then you must have known what is group by, okay, and how it is used with the aggregate functions to resolve complex problems. Okay, so now let's switch to the practical aspect of it. Let me share my screen with the RStudio. Okay. Close all this. Clear all of them. This is the normal practice we should follow. Okay. Let's start with the new script. So let's take that example only. Bollywood, the simple data frame we have, and how we can find magical numbers using simple data frame. Okay, Bollywood.csv string as factor. False. I don't want every character string to be a factor. Okay. And let me do this. If I am not specifying the directory in which the file exists, I need to specify the working directory. So right now I am specifying the working directory. So this is where my Bollywood.csv exists. Let's do this. Okay. .csv. Okay, it's very case sensitive thing. So okay. Now structure of Bollywood. So you can see now verdict should be character, right? So verdict $word Bollywood $verdict should be a factor. Sorry, factor Bollywood $verdict. Let's check the structure again. And so now suppose let's start with the first one, the select. So before that I need to install the library. So I don't need, but you guys need, right? So this is the function, and then I need to do this, yes, because dplyr is not loaded yet. How can I check? I can check using search. So now we are connecting the dots, right? So let's type the search. See, there is no dplyr here. So now you can see dplyr here, right? Okay. So dplyr is done. Now I want to use the first verb, which is select. So I don't want to see the entire data frame, and I want to just see the I don't know, the movie name, and not interested in lead or R date, and the total collection. So select Bollywood $movie, right, comma Bollywood total collection, and also I'm interested in little verdict. The heck? Just give me a second, guys. I don't know. For some reason, it is giving error. I don't know why. There's no mistake. So, what's wrong here then? I don't know. I will look into this, but don't worry about it. What we have done is Bollywood. This is called chain operator. Okay. So basically, you don't have to specify again and again the name of the data frame. Okay. So you put the chain. So the second line will take the input of the first line. Okay. So when you do when you apply the another chain here, and you can another chain operator over here, and then this three columns will become input to your next line of code. Okay. So let me run this. You can see this will select only three columns: movie, total collection, and verdict. Right. And you can save it in like another data frame. So like this. Okay. So 61 observations of three variables. So you can see movie, total collection, and verdict. So this is the importance of select. So if you have like 100 columns or 200 columns, you don't have to worry that because it's really impractical to do analytics on 200 variables or 100 variables at once, right? So you make the subset, you take what is important column wise, and then do the analytics on the rest. Okay. All right. Now the second function is filter. Okay. So suppose I want to see the movies which are flop. Okay. So what I'll do is apply the chain operator here. Okay. So now I have only these three columns to use. If I will try to use some other column, then it will give me a problem. Okay. So let's remove this. I don't want to use a table as of now. So I'll get rid of this. A filter, right? And then verdict, because I want to see the movies which are flop. And here it says double equal to. So that means relational operator, right? So when you say equal to, suppose you say equal to, right? Flop. It will give you error. Must not be named. Do you see this? So because the relational operator is different and the assignment operator is different, right? So you have to specify double equal to. You can see here. So only flop movies right now, right? Any question? Okay. So this is the importance of filter. Now suppose you want to do the arrange, right? So arrange in terms of total collection, arrange by descending order. Okay, arrange by descending order. So let's do that. arrange, and then T collection, right? When you say this, what it will do is, you look at the top one, 0.62, and then it's in the ascending order basically. But you want to see the top movie, right? You want to see the top movie. So what you will do? Descending, DESC, by the function DESC inside. Sorry. Now you can see the highest collection done by that movie, by the movie Mohenjo-daro. Okay, among the flop movies. Okay, yes. So among the flop movies, the total collection was done by Mohenjo-daro. Okay, so it's like worst among the, it's like best among the worst, right? So, so similarly, you can do is there like which movies are super hit. So you see, the Dangal is the best among the best. So Dangal, we all know, right? That movie, Amir Khan movie, like every time it comes at the end of the year, and blast all other movies. So that's what he does, right? Sultan is the second next. MS Dhoni is the third. Airlift, Rustam. So it's a descending order. So like that, you can do the analysis, okay? Or you can do on the entire data frame. You don't need to select this, okay? So let's remove this, and on the entire data frame, I don't want to use, I don't want to particular columns. I want to see in the entire columns. So right. This is the thing. Okay. Any questions so far? No. Mutate, right? So we have seen select, filter, arrange. Now let's see mutate. Now how we can use mutate in this? What we can do is mutate. We can the opening collection, weekend collection, FW collection, all three together, right? And that will be compared to the total collection. Okay, so let's do this. Yes, so let's mutate. Not to see the data properly, I'll stick with the, no, I have to, okay. Let's remove this one, and just no filter also. I don't need filter. I will just want to use the mutate. So let's see. Mutate, and name of the new column, like which column you want to add to the data set. So let's see, I want to add percentage of total. Okay, it's sum of or you can say it's like O collection plus W collection plus FW collection, right? This thing, since we have a board mass, we need to follow this, divided by T collection. Divided by T collection, 100. Close bracket. All right. Most of them are above 100%. Right. So there are few NAs also, which must be due to the NA values in the data set. Okay. So, or maybe you just want to, you don't want this percentage, you want to see the total. So you want to see the total. So and then you know uh, arrange DESC and this new variable called total. I'm sorry, recollection. So you see here, it has added the column 334.26. So Dangal is the highest opening weekend and FW collection as well as the total collection as well, right? So this kind of analysis you can do very easily by simply using select, filter, mutate, arrange. Now these are very powerful. Now when you do the more analysis, like there is a data set, you can practice at home. There is a data set view of, when you see the Gapminder. It's very useful inbuilt data set. You need to install this package and then load the package to use this. Okay, so that's done. View. So it's like so country, continent, year, life expectancy, population, GDP per capita. So various country from starting from year 1952 to I think it's still there 2010. I think so. Let me see. 2007. So it's from 1952 to 2007. The data for the life expectancy in different continents, in different countries. So you can, do a lot of analytics on this. And I think you should do that. As a practice, you should do that. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. So let's cover group by and summarize how they are useful. Okay. So I have this Bollywood data set. Now I want to see the collection depends on the verdict of the movie. Okay. So I have this data set Bollywood and sorry, chain operator. I want to see the total collection as per the verdict. So suppose all the super hit movies, how much collection they have done. All the flop movies, how much total collection they have done. Right? So what I'll do is group by, because I want to apply the operation on a particular group. So group by verdict. So what this will do, this will divide the data into, for example, if we have 5 verdicts, so it will divide the data into 5 verdicts. Okay. And then we use the function called or verb called summarize. Okay. And total is equal to sum of the collection, right? The collection. Okay, sorry. Super hit movies is like 1, 2, 1, 3 point, then hit movies, then flop, average, right? You can see the flop movies have the lowest collection, and the super hit movies have the highest collection. So what I have done, I have grouped by the verdict. Then I will use the summarize function. See how you use the aggregate function. Now let's change this to mean. This will give the average collection. On average, every movie 386.4 in lakhs or crores, whatever it is. Okay, so so that's the thing, right? So group by and summarize, very important. Now suppose you want to group by lead, right? So basically Amir Khan or Shah Rukh or Amitabh Bachchan, so they will be get together. Okay, so let's see. So Amir Khan movie, only one movie, Dangal, 387. Now you can see Akshay, 121. So there are several Akshay movies. A lot of them get together and made this much money. So you can do this actually. Why I'm getting this error? I don't know. I will look into this error, what is happening, okay, and get you guys to you. So this is how you use the. Now you can also see the minimum, right? Which movie has done the minimum, which is doing the max, and all. You can do all kind of analytics using this. Okay. Now suppose you want to do. Let's see that that different data set which we have discussed, Gapminder. Okay. So life expectancy, population, GDP per capita, year, Afghanistan, and all. One more thing you can do here is, okay, with the Bollywood thing, let me show you one more thing. So when we see the summary of movies, when we do the summary of verdict, it gives you the numbers, like how many movies are super hit, how many movies are hit, and how many movies are flop, and all that. And you can do that by this also. That another way to do that is Bollywood and this, then group by verdict, right? Verdict. Then basically you want to do the count, right? Sorry, count. So total count, and this should be n. Remember, I have shown you in the PowerPoint slide to count the numbers, you should use n, this function, right? So this will tell you super hit movie 7, hit movie 7, flop 30, average 17, right? So this is another utilization of that. Okay, and that's it. I think this is just a glimpse of dplyr library. And then both of them should be used simultaneously. So this is how you prepare the data, and then now you can plot. So this is your data is prepared, right? This is one kind of analysis you have found, that okay, these are super hit movies, there are this hit movies, then there are this flop movies. You can do this by the group by lead, and how many actors has done how many movies in a year, right? So Amir has done 1, Abhay has 1, this. Akshay has done 3 movies, Amitabh has done 3 movies. So you can see like this also. Okay. So and then you can plot. You can plot a graph. You can do the library of ggplot2, and you can plot the graph also. So that's how you prepare the data, and then you plot the data. Okay. I think that's it for today from my end. I try to cover as much as I can, in the limited short duration of time. But I know there is this is a deep ocean. I mean, this is a very vast. I mean, as far as we can go. So um, I'll open the forum for question and answers. Okay. Um, yes, definitely, Anurag. You can use SQL for this. Definitely. See, the concepts are same, only the technology differs. Now the benefit with R is you can handle semi-structured or unstructured data also, right? For example, if you want to do the real-time analytics, for example, you have a retail store. Okay, what you do is your store sales is going very very low. Okay, so it's deepening it's declining every day. Okay, what you do, you connect your retail store system to a big data, and then you plug the R into that big data, and you get the real time data every 30 minutes. Okay, and then you can do this kind of analytics on the real time data using R and big data and your billing, and you can see what are the different factors that affecting your sales. Okay, and you can quickly quickly made offer. Okay, this is the offer for next 30 minutes, this is the offer for next 1 hour, and based on that kind of analytics. So this is you can achieve through R, right? It's integration with this and the real time usage of this, right? And the ability to handle the unstructured data and big data and all this. So right, okay, so am I clear, Anurag? Okay, more questions, please. I hope you guys like the session. You guys enjoyed the session. I know it's pretty short. There are many more things to be covered, but I think this is good enough for one session. I mean, a lot of things we have covered, and you can practice at home, and you can contact me if you have any further questions. My contact information I can share with you. I think so basically, let me write a note. Paid share screen. So you can contact me at info@datahouse.org.in, and the mobile is 810-979-7026. That's my number, and 7066-970-434. That's another number you can contact us, and for any future queries. Okay, and I think I'll wait another 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes for the questions. See, it's more about practice, how much you do the practice, and
Sir.
Thank you, Aarti.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed the quiz we just played. We have a set of winners for today's quiz as well, and for yesterday's quiz as well. We'll definitely make sure we send some sort of gifts for you guys who are the winners for the quiz. Also, regarding the session for the certificates, you can contact your faculty coordinator for that particular thing. If you have any feedbacks regarding the session, you're more than welcome to contact me or any of the DevC Indore volunteers. You can post your feedbacks in the comment section as well. If you want us to organize such events again and again, just let us know. If you want us to talk about any specific technology, just let us know. Also, if you have not joined the Facebook Developer Circles Facebook group, I would suggest that you should definitely join that particular group, because this is not the only webinar which we are organizing. We organize webinars every weekend. You can see the URL as a ticker on the screen below. You can definitely join the Facebook group. There are lots of technical discussions going on over there. If you have any problem, you can just ask questions over there in that particular group. If you are working on any project, you can ask for collaborations in that particular group. So yes, definitely that group will definitely help you out for lots and lots of things. We do post a lot of free stuff over there, free video courses. If there are any free webinars, free packs available, we just do that. Yep. So that's probably all from my side. If you have any questions for me, you can definitely post it in comment sections. We'll definitely keep on organizing such events, such webinars for you guys. So if you want us to organize any specific webinar for your college, again, just let us know, or let the faculties know in the coordinators. So I would like to thank each and everyone who was involved in this organizing in this webinar, be it Pradeep sir and all the campus representatives from your college. So yeah, that's all from my side. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. See ya. Bye bye.